The United States Secret Service is an entity that has basically one job, and that is to protect government employees, presidential candidates, and the United States President from any outside harm. And the Secret Service does a pretty good job, with only losing one of their members so far. But sometimes, even the Secret Service is outsmarted. With that said, grab yourself a pair of black sunglasses and check out these 5 hidden details the Secret Service doesn't want you to know. Before we begin, make sure you hit that subscribe button to get notified every day for more amazing content. With that being said, let's begin. Number 5. Armed intruder in the White House. The White House is a very well-guarded place. Sometimes it's open to the public so people can get a look at what it would be like to be the president and live in the historic building. But most of the time, the place is well guarded to keep the president safe from those wishing to cause them harm. Secret Service agents, along with the 4 U.S. Marine sentries who watch over the West Wing while the president is working, keep anyone away from getting in when they aren't supposed to, or so they should. However, back in 2014, a man managed to climb the fence on the property and then ran unobstructed 70 yards across the front lawn. But this is just the beginning of the story. There were many updates on the news media sites as the story unfolded, and the Secret Service was reporting a lot of different stories. Originally, the Secret Service said that the man was unarmed, but later reports ended up saying that the individual was armed with a knife and possibly meant to do some harm, obviously. There was also the report of how far the man ended up getting, with some reports saying he was apprehended on the lawn of the White House, and some saying that he actually made it to the front doors, and then actually opened the door. But as the story started to completely unfold, it was found that the intruder actually made it inside the building. However, the man got further into the building than the agents were reporting. The man got into the building and then proceeded to run down the entrance hall and made it to the cross hall, in which he ran past the staircase that leads to the residence of the first family. Around this area, he ran into a female agent whom he overpowered and then proceeded to the White House East Room. The man was finally taken down next to the entrance to what's called the Green Room, which is used for press conferences, ceremonies, receptions, and other formal events like bill signing. Secret Service agents originally reported that the intruder was taken down by one of their own right as he walked through the doors, but in reality, he pretty much ran all over the place, possibly looking for the president. And those 4 U.S. Marine sentries? Well, they're only on duty when the president's working, and they weren't there this time of night. And the president, at the time, was not even in the building. Despite the lack of security, this was an embarrassment for the agents who were on duty. Number 4. Agents busted with prostitutes. Here's a story that's almost hard to believe, but it in fact happened. The Secret Service has done a fairly good job of keeping themselves out of trouble and keeping the president safe. But back in 2012, a group of Secret Service agents put themselves in a serious situation that involved prostitutes in Colombia. The scandal began when 11 agents were assigned to an advanced team and were supposed to secure a local hotel before the president arrived for a summit in Cartagena, who at the time was US President Barack Obama. But according to many stories, these special Secret Service agents decided to hire some Colombian prostitutes and take advantage of the legal laws there concerning them. This triggered what is probably known as the most embarrassing incident in the history of the 148-year-old agency. These 3,500 special agents are the elite among officers who enforce the law. They even pledged to take a bullet for the president. Actually, what these guys allowed was even more dangerous. These 11 agents invited some prostitutes over to spend the night at the beachfront hotel Caribe. At the time, the details of the incident were a bit murky, so to speak, because at least 2 of the supervisor agents were doing their best to cover everything up to avoid embarrassment. Many guests at the hotel told reporters that these agents were having a good time securing the hotel and were seen drinking heavily during the week-long stay. And though it's unknown if all the members of the team were suspected of hiring prostitutes, one of them decided not to pay one of the women, which would be considered very bad judgment, especially in a situation that would end up putting them all into trouble and grave danger. Oh, danger, you say? The woman in question called the agents involved idiots and said said that if she was a spy, they had sensitive information, and she could have easily gotten it. She said that the secret agent slept all night and that his suitcase and wallet, likely containing important documents, was easily accessible. The 11 agents were recalled back to the USA, and 8 of them lost their jobs over the fact that it's against basic ethics to hire a prostitute. It was a complete embarrassment to the US government, and especially the White House, and it very well could have led to blackmail. But worst of all, it could have led to an assassination attempt on the president. Number 3. White House maid corrects Secret Service mistake. Back in 2011, a maid who was doing her daily cleaning duties in the White House found several pieces of brick and cement near a broken window. Of course, she found the whole thing concerning, to say the least, and immediately reported it to the Secret Service, who, for some strange reason, decided to dismiss the whole thing without investigating it. The maid, however, was determined to find out what happened. But before we get to that, 4 days earlier there was a situation that involved Secret Service agents and some not-so-excellent field work. Then President Barack Obama and the First Lady were out of town at the time, but Malia Obama was due back at the White House. One of the Secret Service agents reported to a supervisor that they had thought they'd seen pieces of concrete falling from the building. In fact, several agents took defensive positions. The supervisor told everyone that no shots had been fired and told the agents to stand down. What they didn't know was that a 21-year-old man by the name of Oscar Ramiro Ortega Hernandez had fired several shots at the White House and then took off in his car. As he was speeding away, he got into an accident and abandoned his car and left behind the semi-automatic rifle which he used to fire shots at the White House. Of course, the Secret Service checked into the incident and claimed that it had nothing to do with the White House, and instead turned the situation over to US Park Police. And these were the police charged with keeping the president safe at the time. Now we go back to the maid, who found the broken glass and concrete 4 days later. After this was reported, someone there decided that the incidents might be linked and decided to investigate. Can you guess what they found? Officers pieced everything together and had finally figured out that Ortega Hernandez had indeed tried to assassinate the president. Of course, a manhunt began and he was arrested after a hotel clerk identified him at a hotel in Indiana. He ended up being sentenced to 25 years in prison. But the failure of Secret Service agents to understand what was going on at the exact time he was firing shots at the White House is something they would rather forget. Number 2. Man with a gun riding an elevator with Obama. Wherever the president goes, the Secret Service is supposed to go first and check everything out. This might include securing the building and checking them for explosives, and even down to making sure that everything is safe. This also means checking out people who were in the building at the time and possibly even checking to see if those people are armed or not. And that is where this story of more Secret Service failure begins. At the time, then President Barack Obama was making a trip to Atlanta at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. A man named Kenneth Tate, who was working as a security guard for a private security contractor, ended up riding in an elevator with President Obama. However, the story's a little strange because before the visit, Kenneth was called into the CDC's office and told that he would be escorting the president during his visit to the center. Kenneth was issued a .40 caliber handgun by his employer, which seems pretty standard for an armed security, to actually be armed and carry a weapon. However, it doesn't matter who you are, and if you aren't a Secret Service agent, you're not supposed to be armed or near the President of the USA without some clearance. This is where the Secret Service agents fell short of protecting the president. It was later found out that as he rode the same elevator with Obama, he was indeed armed with his weapon. The thing is that the agents didn't bother to check out Tate before the president arrived and never hid the fact that he was carrying his weapon. He was a security guard after all, and there is the fact that the company issued him the weapon. Tate had no idea he wasn't supposed to be carrying a weapon. He was also licensed and allowed to carry it in the building. Then President Obama made some small talk with Tate in the elevator, and Obama asked him what his name was and shook Tate's hand. As Obama started to leave the building, Tate walked out in front of the building and used his smartphone to take a photo of the motorcade and the president. But a Secret Service agent motioned for him to move away, and then, later on, was talked to about the incident by his bosses and another agent. The agent who motioned him away also said that someone was going to lose their job because no one ever got so close to the president's motorcade that wasn't allowed. Tate ended up losing his job when it was later determined he was carrying his weapon this whole time, and if there was some hidden motive, he could have been easily able to assassinate the president. Number 1. Drunk agents crash official government vehicle. By this time in the video, you might not think that the Secret Service has such a shiny record after all. In what was called the latest embarrassment to the White House Secret Service, 2 agents who were high-ranking members of the president's security detail were out having some fun at a retirement party for the agency's spokesman. The agents apparently had too much to drink, and especially drink and drive while on duty. After the party was over, the 2 agents decided to head back to work at the White House. However, they had a reason to get there quick, as there was a suspicious package reported and the White House area was under lockdown. As the agents approached the area with car lights flashing and also flashing their badges as they were driving through the checkpoint, plowing through the security tape, and crashing into the barricades that were set up in the area. If that doesn't bring to mind some serious comedy, then nothing will. Apparently, the lights on the car weren't even supposed to be on because the incident was not considered an emergency. The agents weren't even arrested and were instead sent home. Hope you enjoyed the video, Top 5ers. If you haven't already, check out our other channel, Americano, to enjoy even more amazing list videos. There'll be a link in the description, so check it out, as well as our other cool stuff